Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. January the 7th is our date. Happy New Year to you, everyone. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here today. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about, well, all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. Through 7.5 years and 350 shows, we've never run out of things to talk about. And today is, again, as we kick off 2017, not going to have a problem today either, Joe Brett. You know that?
And in the frozen and rainy weather outdoors, Pete and I are both hardy folk with Klamath Falls backgrounds that can. We'll get out and show you houses wherever they're at. If we have to plow the road, we'll get her done. Just give us a call.
Yeah, they had a minus 16 wind chill, by the way, over in K Falls earlier this week.
I was talking about showing homes on this side of the hill. Yeah.
I think those lock boxes would freeze at that kind of a temperature, but who knows? Anyway, Jim Remley's the managing principal broker at John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon. Has been with us, well, twice a year here on the Real Estate Show. Nice to have you here, and Happy New Year to you.
We're looking forward to talking to you guys today.
Well, so
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. 2016, it was...
it's a colossal year.
Amazing year, wasn't
it?
It
was a big year.
Word for
big
it.
year,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yep. Epic for us at John L. Scott. We sold 2,500 homes.
2,500
$759 million closed. It was incredible. We thought 2015 was fantastic.
Yeah.
We closed 650 and $759 million.
That's a lot of homes. That's a lot of homes, and that's a lot of dreams made. People, how many people's lives were changed by all those properties? That's
It's also, I think, a sign of times for our area and our region, and
Definitely.
a sign of what's to come.
Yeah.
Well, Alice Lima's a broker with John L. Scott as well. Has
And a
been
good
on our
one.
show before, and nice to have Happy New Year to you too, Alice. How are you doing?
Happy to be back. Love your show.
Yeah. So you asked Jim, what was 2016? Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you.
2016 was awesome. We had a lot of ups and downs with some of our markets expanding and some of them slowing down a tiny bit. But overall, it was much better than expected. And part of what we wondered when we sat here last year at this time was if we had had such a busy winter, which we did, how was that going to play out during the year? And it played out quite strongly.
Because it never seemed like it ever slowed down. Was that true?
Yeah, I mean, typically you look at a market cycle of being slow in the winter, busy in the spring and summer, but we absolutely did not have a slowdown in the winter. It just kept right on going. In fact, we have come to a point where we have lower inventory now than we would typically have in the heat of summer. We just looked at the numbers this morning. They just came out. Our office, looks at this all the time, and under 350, we're under a month's supply, which means if nothing else was listed, we would sell out every piece of real estate we have in less than a month. So a healthy market's 6 months. So a month is really anemic.
That threshold has moved a little bit up to 350 because I think we're closer to 250 where those inventory numbers were. Yeah,
Joe's right. Exactly right. So it's really incredible.
So what do you think is what's causing this, Jim? I mean, you guys have both been in the market a long time. You've seen ups and downs. We've been through that. What do you think what's happening with this market here? Is it going to continue, or tell us where you think that's going?
Well, I think we've got some unknowns. Trump presidency coming in. We certainly he's going to be a real estate advocate. I would think, coming from a real estate background. But
they call him a real estate mogul. Don't they? I think a lot of the terms are used about him. Mogul.
But the things that we're looking at coming into 2016, there are question marks. Are going to be interest rates. The Fed is talking about 3 more interest rate rises in 2016. We still think we're going to be under 5% throughout 2016. But coming in, 2017 now. I'm still stuck in 2016, 2017. Coming through to 2018, we're talking, NAR's chief economist, Lawrence Yun, is talking about us getting up closer to 6. So, the message I think that I would share with anybody on the fence, buying or selling, is now's the time.
Else?
And our prices are going up, and it's not just a concern about interest rates. It's going to make the buyers' payments higher. The prices are going up because of competition and also because of cash buyers. Cash buyers do not get appraisals, and as we get money coming in from downsizers, people who had bigger homes that are cashing out and buying something smaller, or people from out of the area, a lot of our California cash buyers are back, and that's going to drive the prices up. So the competition is going to be fierce on multiple levels.
So you're seeing prices, the selling prices now inching upwards.
Yes, they are. I think last year our average was in the $200,000 price range.
The median price.
The median price, yeah. At least at John L. Scott now, I think it's up to 300, 301, something like that.
That's the average for us at John L. Scott. Our average is just over 300,000. It's $50,000 higher than our nearest competitor. But the market, I think, definitely across the country, the Case-Shiller Index just came out. It measures the top 20 metro areas in the country, the cities, prices are up 5.3% nationwide over the course of last year. In this market, we haven't got the number yet. We're waiting on that number to come to us, but we're expecting it to be higher, maybe 8 or 9% in this local market. So definitely significant in price appreciation.
Well, and Jim mentioned something really quickly about the NAR economist Lawrence Young. He was here in Medford a few years ago, and that was one of the most fascinating presentations. It's so much information. When he says interest rates are going to be on the move, that is word to take and salt away, because he has done a lot of research and talks to a lot of people that are involved in the process before he makes a projection like that.
A lot of data points go into that. Yep.
Well, Lennox Scott, who owns John L. Scott, his housing predictions for the West Coast housing predictions have been right spot on.
Yeah.
When he was here a few years ago, I mean, remember he was here with us and told us that the Chinese influence, the Asian influence is going to hit the markets. And we heard that last week with Daniel Perry about how it's affected Airbnbs and rentals and things like that. So it seems like that's going to trickle down here as well to us.
He describes it as a frenzy market, and
really,
and certainly in Seattle and Portland, it is a frenzy market.
Yes, it is.
And looking at our numbers, I wouldn't not describe it that way. It's a frenzy market as well. Yeah.
Well, if inventory stays the way it is, we are in a frenzied market.
Yeah.
Real quickly, it just popped in my head. What did Portland do because Portland's one of the more prices are on the move so much, it's a concern almost up there.
I don't know their price exactly appreciation. I think those numbers are still coming in, but I think they're definitely beating us in Seattle's probably right there too. I'm sure it's over. Yeah. I'm sure it's double digits.
Double digits, yeah.
Well, they should be. Of course, now remember, January 1st of every year, that's when Jackson County assessor, places the real market value on the properties in our county. So come November of this year, remember, when you get your tax statement, it's going to be based upon today,
right?
11 months earlier, the value of your property, the real market value of that property.
It's good to keep in mind with things on the move.
But look at today, because are we going to have double-digit kind of increases in our own valley here? We're going to have, obviously, you're saying, Alice, prices are rising, the demand is great. We're going to see, obviously, investing for investment purposes, you're going to increase the value of your property, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, the thing that will affect price appreciation is two things: job growth. You got to be able to pay for this house, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's right. Yeah.
we can't just go into infinity here. It's got to be paid by something. And then second is going to be interest rates, because every time the interest rate rises, it puts downward pressure on pricing. So those are the two kind of headwinds against price that can slow us down on pricing.
Now, I've heard you say to agents many times about the issue of that as interest rates go up, you buy less, you can buy more. Explain that again, because I think that is so smart for our listeners to hear that from you about, because interest rates are obviously going to rise a little bit here, and what does that mean for us?
Well, as interest rates rise, if you imagine, you have a $200,000 mortgage, interest rates rise, let's say 0.5%, and it's costing you an extra $100 or $200 a month for that mortgage, that means you can't finance as much. Your loan amount has to be less, which means you can only afford to pay less for a house. So it just puts pressure on sellers to be able to ask more when buyers just can't qualify for more. There's only so much they can spend.
Almost the inverse of that, I heard, is that if interest rates climb enough, it will stem the tide of price appreciation. So that you don't price the buyers out of the market.
Yeah, it's all about supply and demand. And right now, if you're looking in the mid-range prices, somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, $200,000 and $325,000, East Medford, Central Point, parts of Ashland, condos in Ashland, then that price point is going to make a big difference to those buyers, because $25,000 or $30,000 of buying power could mean the difference between being a renter for another couple of years or actually getting into a house.
If we look at December over December stats that you've got there in terms of the available homes per buyer, that kind of thing, Jim. Last time I think from November was, the 150 to 250 was like sold out. I think I heard you say at an office meeting, basically everything between 0 and 350 is, you can say it's sold out.
Yeah.
Which it was just, whoa, you got to be kidding. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at it from available homes per buyer standpoint, we're down to 2.7 homes per buyer in the market.
Overall.
So, and to compare that with last year at the same time, That's a 41% decrease in available. So last year, last year is 4.7 homes. Now it's 2.7 homes. Yeah. We don't have, statistics are notoriously slow to get out. We're looking still at November to November. So November 15 to November 16. Months of supply, though, comparing November 15 to November 16, months of supply went from 3.5 months last November 15. November 16, 1.8 months supply. That's all property categories. All residential price categories. I'll put it that way.
Is this strictly driven because the inventory is low? Is that what's driving that totally, you think?
Two things.
Demand? Or what?
Two things. I mean, that's a measurement of how many homes are available and how many are going pending. Right. Okay. So if you had just listings piling up on the market, then your months of supply would increase. But what's happening is they sell very rapidly. If our sales pace decreases, our inventory goes up. So that's a measurement of the health of the market. The market's extremely healthy.
How do we keep sellers who are saying, because they hear us say, it's a seller's market. You're going to make all this money. Alice says we've got, which is one time we had 15 offers on a place, things like that. What are we telling them at this point?
Alice, what are you telling them?
Well, you have to still look at what an appraiser is going to value the property at, because 90% or over 90% of your buyers are going to be getting mortgages. So you have to have some amount of realism. And plus, the seller does want to move, right? So, they don't want to list their house. They want to sell it. But right now, if there are people out there that are kicking around the idea of moving or selling, then it's not only a great time to buy, it is a great time to sell. And we desperately need more listings.
In all categories, correct?
In all categories. Yep. We're having more and more sales in our upper price points, over $850 up to $2 million. We can always sell things that are in the 300 range, but anything in between, there really is a severe housing shortage in Southern Oregon.
Question for Jim. Right. We know that we are building homes as fast as we can, but we're not going to be able to meet the demand just by putting up new homes. We know that the land that's been foreclosed on, the cheap land, is spoken for and pretty much being developed. What's the future? The UGBs, the urban growth boundaries are expanding. That process is going to take place, but how are we going to meet this demand going forward?
It's a challenge. I think what we're seeing right now, NAR does a study every year of a profile of home buyers and sellers, and one of the things they study is how long people stay in their current house, right? So the average tenure since I got in the business 28 years ago was 2 to 6 years. 2 to 6 years, people get tired of where they're living, they move on, they sell their house. In the last 5 years, that's changed. The dynamics has changed, and now it's that people are in their houses more like 10 years.
So they're staying longer.
They're staying longer, which that's creating a supply problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So if they don't move, they creates an issue for us because we need them to move, right? Part of the reason, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, people were underwater in the house in the downturn.
I was going to say,
that's part of it. But another part of it is, and people forget this, is that a lot of people refied and locked in a super low rate, and now they're hesitant to move on from that rate, right? Which is a message to everyone that's kind of on the fence for selling, is that the looking forward over the next year or two, if your horizon is to sell your home in the next, let's say, 5 years, I'm going to say to you, take a hard look at selling now, because if interest rates are going to rise, and if you sell now and you can lock in this relatively low rate,
good point.
You are going to lock it in for the next 30 years. Why wait until they've got 5.5% or 6%? Lock that rate in. That will have the biggest impact on your overall wealth in your family than anything else, because you're going to be paying that interest rate over 30 years, right? If you gain 5% on your home by waiting a year, it's not going to even come close to equaling that 1% interest rate on your mortgage.
I was going to say 1 to 1.5% interest rate higher. Yep. Man, boy, you have just lost everything that you gained in your sale.
Absolutely, no question.
Well, we'll see what happens. what happens with that? I've always wondered, as we go into the market. 40% of sales are out of area buyers, and 60% are local buyers, either moving up. And believe me, we always talk about the moving up side of this thing. And my experience lately, certainly 2016, has been moving down. And I say moving down, I'm talking about downsizing or right sizing, older people moving out and getting into some other housing. You talk about difficulty finding housing for older people moving out of their main house. It's really a difficult situation that we're facing right now, and I don't know where we go. So the pressures just seem nothing's going to change, it looks like, but we're going to just be paying more and having more tougher experiences, I think, ahead.
That's not going to help us get those folks inventory on the market either.
I mean, Joe brought up a good point in building. I mean, we're at a very low level. What a 50-year low for building. we haven't built this low of homes in 50 years. And so it's starting to come up now. Over the last year, it's a little bit better, but we're not building enough homes. We should be building about 1.5 million homes a year in the country. We're less than 1 million.
Less than 1 million.
So what's happening is we have to replace that supply. And this is part of the planning departments in all of our cities, Central Point and Eagle Point and Medford. They've got to put their heads together and give us developable land.
One of the things we have learned, Jim, is that there's nobody in charge in the county in housing. I mean, it's the city does this county does that. There's no kind of central place, is there, where this information goes, and so that contributes to the problem.
And those cities would love to develop that land. The state is where the roadblock comes in, and where that developable land is really hard to get get identified and be able to bring into the UGBs.
I know you go to all those planning commission meetings. Is there stuff on the horizon coming? More stuff coming?
The Medford's plan is going to go through Jackson County and then through the Land Use Board of Appeals and all of those processes upstate. So it's in the works right now for our regional problem-solving plan that they've worked on now for 12 and a half years.
We're with Jim Remley and Alice Lima here on the John L. Scott Market Watch Show on the Real Estate Show on KMED. Don't you dare go away. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. January 7th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com. We hope you'll do that. Lots of good shows in there. Everything from my favorite is still the pre-home inspection, Joe. You know that. I mean, that to me, I was getting my new deck on my house, coming up, and of course the snow. I think it's going to be delayed a little bit. It's
I wouldn't take that on right now.
About 2 feet of snow, but I can't wait to get it done. I'm increasing the value of my property, right? So when I sell it in 2017, we'll get a good price for it. That's what I've been doing, Jim Ramley and Alice Lima. I hope it works. You guys have been telling me this for a long time.
Track lighting in his office now. And if you would have seen where the office started, that is, he's come uptown.
We just got to find a buyer, kind of thing like that. Anyway, way it goes. Anyway, here on the Real Estate Show today, Jim Remley is the managing principal broker at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon for the Medford national offices, and Jim's telling us what a great year John L. Scott had, certainly selling over 2,500. That's amazing.
It's a big number.
Homes.
Jim has been managing and brokering a lot of deals.
There's a big team behind me, man. Big team behind me.
It's just amazing kind of a thing there.
2,500 transactions.
We got a lot of great brokers that make that happen. I mean, a lot of work.
And I think our listeners have met many of them on our show.
Yeah.
And we have 2 of them right here. Or 3 of them. Pete, Alice, and Joe.
I was going to say Joe and Alice there. And Alice Lima is also here. Alice is a broker with John L. Scott and had another great year in 2016. And we even actually did in fact, both of us did a transaction with Alice.
That's
this
how busy
year.
Alice
Both of us did separately.
Alice had her best year ever.
Yeah,
excellent.
best year ever.
That's
Good
really
for
cool.
you.
Well, what as we look ahead, we're trying to get again to buyers and sellers and thinking about what they're going to do in 2017. And so far, we've heard from you that selling may be a smart thing if you're thinking, you say in the next 5 years to do it now.
Absolutely. I mean, the interest rates alone will be a big deal. Plus, there's that the idea of the delta. A lot of people forget about the delta effect, and that is if you are been waiting for your home price to go up, is the problem with that approach is that if you're moving up, if you're selling a house that's worth $300,000 and you're moving up to $400,000, and both of you appreciate at a 5% rate, the $400,000 house is now worth what? $420, right? And the $300,000 house is now worth
$320.
No. $315. Good job.
Yeah.
And so you've actually lost $5,000 by waiting. Yeah. So the idea here is don't wait if you're moving up. Always take action now while you can lock in the lower price.
But you're also the other thing that you said about that is that if people are staying in their home longer, probably because of the recession, everybody took a hit. Now you're back up, everybody's above water. That people are staying longer, so maybe that's contributing to our inventory lack of it.
I think a lot of people just kind of shut their brains off when it comes to real estate. They just I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to deal with it, because they had such a bad taste in their mouth from the downturn. But now it's time to open your eyes. Look at what's happening and look at your financial future long term. Where are you going to be 20 years from now if you don't make the right decisions today?
Yeah, and that's very, very true. Now, January 1st also means, this is a new legislative year, not only in the Congress, but...
that's a buzzkill.
Thank you. Yeah. What a wet blanket.
Alice, I get nothing from these guys here. Anyway, the Oregon legislature is going to be meeting, next week. They open up, and there's only one legislator of the 90, who's a real estate broker. And that's Representative Sal Esquivel, our friend Sal.
That's right.
And this is Sal's last term, so there's not going to be anybody left in real estate. Yeah. I think Jim maybe should enter the world of politics and probably go do that.
We like Jim. Why would we wish that on him?
We need a real estate advocate in Salem. I'm just worried about what's going to happen, and I don't know what's going to happen. But I did talk with Sal before he would go to Salem. And the thing is, the state is looking at a $1.7 billion biennium deficit. And what's an easy thing to tax, as is real estate. And we're going to come right back to it again and get ready for it. They're going to try to close that gap with some sort of real estate transaction, something, even though we have it in the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. I think you're going to see something like that. Generally, what happens, I just hope they don't do it locally, anything like that, and I don't think they will.
The one thing that we have going for us is we've got a fantastic trade organization. The largest trade organization in the United States is the Realtor Organization. Yeah. And the Realtor Organization goes out and fights this battle, not just for realtors, but for all property owners in the state of Oregon and every state in the nation to fight these transfer taxes. Because you talk about a wet blanket, that puts a wet blanket on the market. Yeah. What it does is it takes that appreciation from your home, because in effect, it's a tax that's now paid to the county or the city or the state, and it doesn't go to the homeowner.
I had a client from California saying about she said, "What's the tax?"
They expect the tax.
What's the tax? And I said, "What do you mean? There's no tax. Well, they got to have what's your real estate tax?
Transfer tax. Yeah,
we don't have one. They're used to that. Exactly right. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. I can't let you guys go also to talk about 2016 and looking forward to 2017 without mentioning what real estate and recreational marijuana has done to our market. Because I don't care what anybody says, Joe, and certainly since we've started talking about it in the last year and a half or so, 2 years now, it has really had an effect on real estate here in our market. Alice, you deal with like we do every day, right? Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, and not only is it creating additional sales for land and commercial buildings, but it's also starting to provide a little bit of a job source in Southern Oregon. Not a lot, but a little bit. I know it's hard to get a haircut during harvest season because a lot of the hairdressers have been confiscated for trimmers. But some of those kids are getting $20 and $30 an hour. Yeah. Fence builders are busy. The security people are busy.
So water haulers. I mean, you
the water haulers, right? Yeah. Well, if you don't buy your land right, then you haul water. So that's why you need a good realtor.
Is the frenzy that was there a year ago? I mean, think about it. Just became recreational. Just became legal. Just a little over a year ago. What has that been like? Has it slowed down at all during the year now? Do you think, or is the frenzy still there for people wanting to buy property? Just I want this, I want that, I want to grow here. What do you think?
My personal experience is it's seasonal, that they're farmers and that they have a season. And so they're out shopping during certain times of the year for certain kinds of property. But it is interesting to watch it kind of bleed over into some of the other affiliate industries.
Yeah, and they had to wait out a lot of the county ordinances
some of the municipalities
and the land use
keep
issues
their mind.
And municipalities and counties were wrestling with how that all was going to be able to be accommodated, where it was going to be accommodated. So I think there's some that have just been kind of biding their time and waiting to see where it all plays out and what the prime opportunities are going to be.
I think as well. I mean, for me, looking at it from a kind of a top-down view, looking at all the sales coming through an office, I can easily say at least 10% of the sales were somehow marijuana-related sales.
Wow,
I can tell you that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. And the ones that are selling are the ones that wouldn't normally sell, or that if they were going to sell, it would take 200 days, 300 days, a couple of years to sell. Things that are in the outlying areas, things that are remote, things that you can't get to easily. And these things they're sold, and they're sold rapidly. The message I would have if you have an EFU zone property is if you're considering selling this in the next 5 years, sell it now.
Sell it now.
Sell it now. Because like any market, this green rush will get oversaturated and there'll be too many players in the market and then the market will, it may not collapse because I think there's a lot of pot smokers worldwide, but it will certainly go over the top. And you'll have a downturn in the green rush. And so if you want top dollar, sell now.
I hear people are also leasing some of their properties out to growers instead of selling them.
Those properly zoned areas.
In properly zoned areas, you have to do it. You have to do it the right way. That's interesting in itself, isn't it? Man,
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to go. I understand that credit unions are now taking money from growers and putting it into that banking system, which is going to help them a lot. May help the whole economy a lot because the money's going to be freer out there because there's certainly a lot of it out there.
Well, and then you can document it, and then you can actually get a loan to, have a mortgage and to purchase, your own home.
How many other
or buy some rentals?
How many other 20 to 30 hour dollar an hour jobs for a non-college educated young person in our valley do you know of other than the one you mentioned, Alice? I mean,
it would be really interesting to have that kind of employment opportunity here.
And if you could document it and show it and show it as clean income, boy, it could be.
It's a game changer.
We're looking for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking for jobs.
And sustainable jobs that folks could buy a house and build a family with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it certainly changed. I thought that it changed our real estate market probably the most of any particular one thing.
10% is really...
In 2016.
I do think that. I have no doubt in my mind that that's a good number.
And I don't know how it's going to change in 2017. Let's see what happens. You're right. Yeah. I know prices, so if the world of supply and demand in real estate works the same as recreational marijuana, then, we're gonna find out, right?
But there's a double-edged sword into how much marijuana you grow and how much, and the market could
absorb.
Yeah, exactly.
But it certainly has had, no question, and a big effect
and they grow a lot.
On real estate.
It's a good place to grow it.
We've got one more segment to go. We're with Jim Remley and Alice Leamer from John L. Scott on our Market Watch show today on the Real Estate Show. Don't you dare go away. We're coming right back to KMED right after this. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. January 7th is our date. Happy New Year to you, everyone. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here today, along with Jim Remley, who's the managing principal broker at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and Alice Lima, a broker with John L. Scott, Southern Oregon as well. They've both been on our show before, and we've been having quite a discussion today about 2016, the year we just completed, and what a fabulous real estate year it turned out to be for the most part.
It's a good one.
And as we look ahead to 2017, some of the things that are out there that well, we're going to deal with, I suppose, as the year goes along. We know what some of those are. We know the interest rates are creeping up a little bit, and we know we have a pretty low inventory throughout Jackson and Josephine County. That's driving the market as well, right?
I just told Jim during the break that I've got some great information he's brought to the show. I'm going to be armed with when I talk to buyers and sellers going forward this year. So
yeah, the best one is if you're going to sell in the next 5 years, sell it now.
Sooner than later.
Because you're going to get less for it if you wait.
Because you're going to pay the higher interest rates on the other end when you go to your new place.
Alice Lima, you talk about multi-generational units. That word is kind of in now, I suppose, in families and housing. What does that mean?
Well, it means that you have different age groups under the same in the same household. So I had my 83-year-old mother with me for 9 months, and that makes us a multi-generational family. Yeah. And so I was wondering if perhaps when the baby boomers, that demographic, the older people in our area, are contemplating their quote end of life strategy, and if they take too much time to think about that, not that you want to rush a big decision like that, but the markets don't wait for us to make up our minds. So it could also add to our inventory issues because just demographically there's so many baby boomers. It's one of the larger generational pools. So if people are having their adult kids move in with them or vice versa, then they're not selling their house.
They're not going to sell the house.
Right. Yeah. But also I noticed this year that there was a large impact, at least on my business, families coming to me saying, we want 2 roofs, we want wings, we want to share a kitchen, we want to be together, but we don't want to be together. And so those properties...
we don't want to physically fight.
They don't want, they want their space. And so those people paid a premium because there's so much competition for that lifestyle right now.
And I think Daniel Perry last week, Joe, on our show about Airbnb said that very same thing, that the Airbnb movement is going to change the way you're going to value real estate because, let's face it, if you can add an additional dwelling unit onto your place, or you have a wing, as you say, you could redo or spend some money in your current place
and generate additional
you can generate
revenue.
Some income and some extra and some value for that. So I agree with that, Alice. I think that's really that's going to be a big thing in the future, especially, you're right, for the boomer generation. We're not going out like any other generation before.
Makes sense.
Right? It's not going to happen.
Makes sense with the housing shortage as well. And we used to be a nation where multi-generational households were kind of the norm, 60, 80 years ago. So more things changed and more they stay the same sometimes.
All that being said, and I agree with everything that's been said, the largest demographic group within the buyer market of real estate buyers are first-time home buyers.
Yes.
So, the first-time home buyers were trapped in their parents' home for a long time. They graduated college, then the Great Recession hit. They couldn't move and they couldn't get a job. Now they're getting jobs. They're getting married, and now they're finally able to get out.
That's great news.
It's a big part of our market. The challenge for them is they can't find a house.
I was going to say, how big of a problem? Because I've had, again, baby boomer, older than me, in that trying to, well, where am I going to go if I sell my house?
Right.
And other people are saying, even if I'm going to sell my house to move up or down, I don't have a lot of choice right now.
Property.
So replacement. So that's really seems to be a big problem that keeping people not moving, not doing something.
There's some, if you get a creative realtor like Alice or one of you folks, Joe or Pete, that can sit down with you and say, listen, we can make your house sale contingent on you finding replacement property. If that's your biggest holdup and that's your biggest concern, I mean, it's not ideal. I mean, certainly buyers would prefer not to see that. But, sometimes it's necessary if they're trying to find something that's not easily found.
Yeah, sellers have a little leverage now, too. That might not be a bad strategy to employ.
What else you think is on the horizon of 2017 that our listeners, may want to keep an eye on for, Jim?
I think the thing for 2017, which is going to kind of dictate how good a market we have, because you can have massive demand, but if you can't fill that supply, we could still have a down year in real estate. So the biggest concern I have is somebody managing a company in real estate is, can we fill the supply gap? And that's our biggest drum we're beating. We're out there talking to everybody. Have you ever considered selling? Have you ever thought about selling? What's your horizon for selling? And so this is our number one challenge for us.
I don't think that's going to go away.
It's not immediately.
I was going to say it can't change tomorrow.
It's not going to change overnight. Certainly. I mean, walking into spring and having less than a month's supply is scary. To be honest with you, but. Can this change over 2 or 3 years? I think it can, and it's going to. I mean, this is supply and demand. I've been in the business a long time. It goes up, then it goes down. You go to buyer's market, seller's market. We're in a very strong frenzy, as Lennox would say, seller's market.
Yeah,
it's a frenzy market.
And is that sales level sustainable, do you think, for our Rogue Valley and
it's
our local
absolutely
offices?
sustainable at this level as long as we have supply. In fact, if we suddenly, miraculously, somebody waved a wand over this market and gave us 500 or 1,000 new listings, I have no doubt we would instantly almost absorb all those listings. And we would sell them overnight.
Because we have a lot of buyers who are waiting for new stuff to come on, right?
Hundreds and hundreds of buyers are in the wings waiting.
Just on our own office, I'm amazed how many agents put out all the time. I have buyers looking for this, buyers looking for that, and there's no inventory out there for them.
But that is a good reason to work with the John L. Scott agents, because that internal network really does make connections maybe ahead of the game and ahead of the market sometimes. That can really help your buyers in these tight inventory times.
You bet. Absolutely.
Now, Jim, also, you've got an event coming up next month, I know that.
Yes.
So tell people what renter to ownership means.
So we certainly want to encourage renters that have been maybe in a rental for a long time, and they've been thinking about buying a home and they have some fear around it, or they just don't know what to do. Maybe their parents have been renters. We want to give them a path to getting to becoming a homeowner. Homeowners, it's the number one way that people acquire wealth in the United States.
Absolutely.
NAR does a study of it. They just did it again. Lawrence Yoon, an economist, told us that the average renter in America has a net worth of $5,000.
Yeah.
Average homeowner in America has a net worth of, what do you guys think?
$220,000.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I know that. I know
that. Miss Chloe here in the room. How do you do it? 220. You're right.
I've used that on people before. I said, look at the difference.
We're listening.
It's 220. So $220,000. It's not magic. It's really that they've invested in the property and it's acquired equity over time.
Absolutely.
They live in a house for a long time. Yeah. So this seminar is just about giving them a guidepost and a way to get there. And if I can tell you just a 2-second story about that, I grew up, my parents were renters. My mom was a renter. My dad was a renter. And I look at them over time and I thought to myself, I wish they had become homeowners a lot sooner.
A lot sooner, right? Absolutely. Than that. We got to go. Jim Bramley, thank you. Alice Lima,
always nice to visit
with you. Good luck to you in 2017. Jim, we'll see you down the road as well.
Okay.
Joe,
thank you.
Holiday season continues, right?
Yep. All the way to the Super Bowl.
That'll do it for the Real Estate Show today. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you all. We'll see you next Saturday right back here on KMED.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.